What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone's enjoying this November, getting ready for Thanksgiving and the end of the year slowdown, where we have plenty more time to play some video games. This video is going to be a little bit different from the other ones. I know, like I mentioned before, I do a lot of VR stuff, but I kind of wanted to do kind of a small series casually whenever I can, whenever I do. I don't want to put too much stress and pressure on it to make it a regular thing. But I am going to be revisiting, and I always do, play some video games that I never got to fully experience as a kid, own, or fully play through and through, or I have played partially and I got to kind of experience them when I got older. Now that I have more money and less time, that's the issue. Well, everyone else who's a gamer, I am revisiting a lot of these older games from various different consoles and platforms, and Half-Life has been one of them. And I know a lot of people are going to think this is blasphemous, or oh my god, I never played Half-Life, and how could you, this and that. But to be honest, like, I did have a PC growing up at home, but never had a lot of PC games. And if I did, like, my parents were very limiting on how many games I could buy and play, and especially consoles. I was only allowed one console per generation. And not till I got older, I started delving more and more into it. Emulation started coming up and all this stuff, and it became easier to get access to a lot of these different things in the internet. So here we are today, re-experiencing Half-Life as an adult and playing it through and through. I remember as a kid too that my friend had Half-Life, so I never got to play it with him. I kind of had to watch him play, and that's a lot of the case for a lot of different video games like the Zelda series, which I do plan on visiting too. That was kind of my experience with Half-Life, was watching him play. So I would watch bits and pieces of him playing it because I wasn't always with him 24/7. I remember him always getting excited. Hey, I got past this level. He told his older brother, I got past this level. It was so hard, X, Y, and Z, because his brother had his separate save file. And I remember they always fight about, hey, why are you touching my save file? Make sure you don't overwrite, and all that kind of argument that siblings had when they're sharing a game or a console or a save file. So that was kind of my experience growing up, was watching him play all the different Half-Life series, Half-Life 1 and 2, on his computer when I'd visit him. Now, not till I got older, I got to experience Half-Life Alyx. That was my first start to finish Half-Life game, but I know that one's VR and it's kind of separate from the original series, but it ties into it. It's a whole different experience. But to me, Half-Life Alyx isn't my only my favorite VR game. To me, it's one of my top favorite games in general. Like, video games altogether, that experience in itself was amazing. And I remember when I played that and seeing Half-Life get modded for VR and all this stuff, and I always wanted to play Half-Life, and I never really sat down because there were so many other things to play. I never really revisited it. Now as I get older, and I have this YouTube channel on top of that, and as I get into more game development, game design, I like to revisit some of these old games to get a different perspective and kind of enjoy what gaming was in that era. And every game that's retro from a certain area, it kind of takes me back a little bit. So it was really cool to really experience Half-Life 1 as an adult from so many different perspectives and different lights, that I got to really appreciate it. So now it's funny because when the Half-Life 1 20th anniversary came out, that's when I decided, okay, I got to sit down and start playing this game. Not till a year later, I decided to actually play it full on through and through. And it so happened to be around the same time as the Half-Life 2 20th anniversary. I literally finished Half-Life 1 a day or two after the Half-Life 2 20th anniversary release. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down the game. We're going to talk a little bit about the story, we're going to talk about the gameplay, and we're going to talk about graphics, sounds, and creativity of the game, just to kind of look at the game from all different angles and kind of really appreciate it for what it was at that time. So that's the thing, that when I'm talking about this and when you're listening, I'm talking about this game from that era and the positives from that, and looking at like how were they able to think like this and be this creative with the limited amount of resources from that time of video games, where now we have so many different inspiration, and you look at so many different styles of gaming. Back then, gaming was still growing, it was still very niche. So just keep that in mind when I'm talking about all these different topics and categories, because it kind of gives you an extra level of appreciation for the game. Now, the story wasn't very that in-depth. There wasn't really much going on. You kind of pick up clues from NPCs and some interactions, and you kind of get the hint of it as from the map, from the levels, from what's really kind of going on. So from the sound effects, from what you're actually fighting against, and then some of the interactions with the main villain, if you call him the villain. Some people have some different theories, and I've watched online. Essentially G-Man. So it's not very that in depth because it is the first game. I would imagine they probably didn't have a lot of resources to, you know, do all that like we have super deep in narrative video games like we do now. So a lot of different holdbacks, I guess, that, you know, resources are very limited. The resources of the PCs, production, and then just, hey, like they probably thought, is our first video game, we're not going to make it too complex. Probably they just had enough just to make it a fun video game. But what was really cool about the story was the interactions with the villain, especially at the end, where there's kind of technically two endings and you have a choice. That was the most you kind of got out of the story, was interactions with him, and then just like the scientist kind of giving you, you know, tidbits here and there. That was pretty much it. Like, I wasn't disappointed, but I wasn't, you know, oh, this is amazing. It was just like, okay, like this is understandable why the story wasn't that in depth, especially as the first game of the series. Now, gameplay, I think, is probably the most, you know, most detailed aspect of this game, because at that time, you know, gameplay was everything. It's like how realistic, how engaging, how creative and interactive can we make these video games today? That was the biggest thing at that era, is like, how can we make kids and people and gamers have fun? If you even look at the N64, the SNES, PlayStation, everything, it was about gameplay. Like, narrative was very limited unless you had a lot of text at that time. So the gameplay on this, honestly, for what it was at that time, and playing it in 2024, 21 years later, technically, it is very, very fun. Actually, it's, you would think it'd be like, oh, I'm gonna get bored, and, you know, compared to all these other complex video games that I play and FPS games that are out there and VR and all this, you would not have as much fun. But it was challenging. It you know, it didn't really hold your hand. It made you really think and explore the map and the levels, where you had to find a solution. There was no markers. There was no one telling you and reminding you, hey, do this, hey, do that. Like in God of War Ragnarok, where Atreus would always tell you, hey, jump up here, like non-stop. You had none of that. So that's what was really, really cool. Like, it forced you as a player to explore and figure it out and how to get through a level. And some of them were very challenging, like management. It was like health, ammo management, not blasting through your ammo, using the right weapons with the right enemies, right vehicles to fight against, and etc., or quote unquote bosses at a certain level, and how to get through that. So there were times where I had very low health because I kind of got sloppy, and I had to just manage with whatever I had, and I had to be very strategic. Even though someone else that might have played that spot of that level and they had a better management system, or they were better experienced, or you kind of already had an experience with the game, they knew what to do, could have blasted right through that. But as a first run, it was really cool because I never knew really what to expect. And for, you know, today's standards at FPS, like, if the closest thing I could tell you, it plays very similar like Doom. If you really played the old Dooms, or have seen gameplay of it, those are pretty popular amongst, you know, YouTubers and just retro gaming in general. And Doom has kind of become a meme, like, oh, can it run Doom? So that it reminds me of that sometimes, some of the FPS aspect of it, because they all came out around the same time on top of that. But that's to give you an idea, if you've never seen Half-Life or don't know much, and you've played Doom, it kind of reminds me of it a little bit. Not exactly, but it has elements where it does remind me of it. The puzzles were kind of cool, to be honest. They force you to really explore the map, like I mentioned before. Like, hey, how do I get through this? How do I get through this door? How do I don't want to spoil too much, but that's all I could say. How can I get past this point? You have to really explore and figure it out yourself. There was no, you know, holding your hand like other video games like we have today. So to me, I think the gameplay for Half-Life 1 is what really stands out the most. You know, for what it was in the standards of, you know, 20 years ago to today, I think it still really holds up. If you're someone who can really enjoy just, you know, taking away all your past experiences of gaming, especially in today's climate, and just kind of enjoy and appreciate, you'll see a lot of the, you know, the charm, the forward thinking, advancements, and the fun that they were able to create, that it still holds up today, which is really hard to do. Some games don't hold up well after a certain era of gaming, and they just focused on interactive and just fun, keeping it simple, and that's what they did. And to me, I think the gameplay is what really stands out for Half-Life. Now I'm gonna group graphics, sound, and creativity together because they kind of intertwine, because there are limiting aspects of resources and technology for that era. And I'm not gonna grade it too harshly. Like graphics, what do you expect from a game from 20 plus years ago? Like limited resources, tech, that's everything was built for. There have been quote unquote remakes, like fan mods. Black Mesa is the one that was kind of remade for Half-Life 1. So essentially it's Half-Life 1 but remade in standard graphics and gameplay. I haven't experienced that yet, which I plan to, but that's what I understand. And Valve has always made updates to the game. There's always community mods and everything. But for the graphics for the release of Half-Life 1, like there's not much you can expect, especially with the sound too. Like, I mean, the sound effects for the guns, and the NPCs, and the aliens and all that. It's what you would expect from that time. So you're not gonna grade it harshly. Oh, the graphics were horrible. Some people, I would say some people might be turned off from playing it, but to be honest, like there's a level of charm to the graphics with the gameplay. And if like, hey, I just want to play something nostalgic or retro and feel like I'm playing a game from that era, like this is the game to play. It's not gonna stand out, but the creativity is what really stands out to me. It's like, despite the graphics and the sound, the creativity of the environments with what they had, the creativity of the how the aliens looked, the creativity of the environment, the level design, and some levels were short, some were long, some had had a certain mechanic, some didn't. So it was always keeping it fresh. It wasn't stale and the same, and a lot of the things carried on to other levels. So there was a level of creativity that for that time it still holds up till today. But for that time, it blows my mind how they were so passionate and forward thinking. Like even the variety of weapons, you had a lot of different weapons, from handguns, rifles, shotguns, weapons you can only use underwater. The sci-fi weapons were really cool. I'm not gonna spoil, but like the sci-fi weapons, most people have played this game, but for just in case for people who haven't, I'm not gonna spoil anything. But there was a level of creativity. The only thing that wasn't very creative was how every scientist NPC all like looked the same. There was like probably 2 or 3 variations, and that's all they used. But there was more variation in the aliens and the guns and the enemies. That to me had a lot more variation. But the scientists were kind of like 1 to 3 different meshes or assets that they use. It was repetitive. So other than that, I think it was really, really cool, and I enjoyed the game. To kind of just wrap up, give my final thoughts, and show my level of appreciation for this game. I'm glad that I played it, regardless of not being able to experience it when it came out. I wish I was able to. I think I would have, more of an attachment to it. I still do, because I still experienced it when I was a kid by watching, and I was still amazed and blown away. Like, this is a video game with how it looks like. But to, have it for my own and play it, I wish I did as a kid. But even as an adult, some like 20 plus years later, I still enjoyed the game for the first time, like from start to finish. And I think everyone else that, that wants to play an older game, go through nostalgia, or play something a little bit more simple, or, they're kind of tired of, all the craziness of the gaming industry in 2024, the ups and the downs and the disappointments. This is a really good game to really just enjoy. There's no microtransactions, there's no distractions, no DLCs, no season passes or anything. If you want to just a game that you want to just sit down and just play and have fun, like, this is it. Valve, they show a lot of love and appreciation for their video games, which I really enjoyed. Like the level of mod support, they give the community free reign to like add stuff to the video game. The celebrations, we have Half-Life 2 RTX coming out. They even supported Wormslayer, which is the guy who was leading projects for, the Half-Life VR mods. We have Black Mesa, which is a remake of Half-Life 1. You have extra stuff for Half-Life Alyx. So if you really want to enjoy, an older game, I think this is something that you would really enjoy. Just get past your preconceived notions, of what video games should be, and just have fun with it. Valve is so creative. They even have valves throughout the different levels where you have to like use to get past certain points. It's really cool when you see like little, Easter eggs here and there, and there's a level of charm and everything, and you just want to just have fun and get past all the fluff and BS. Like, I would really recommend this game, and I don't regret spending time playing it. and I want to continue playing on the series, and I'll give you guys my insights. And you know, as I get through the series, I'll make some more topics on it. But for me, it was a fun game, and I can't have any complaints about it. It was really fun, and I recommend everyone to give it a try. And I'll leave it at that, guys. Hope you guys are having fun. Enjoy the winter gaming hibernation season, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.